from Jermaine Stewart's famous hit, "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off," to Bobby DeBarge's beautiful falsetto, the AIDS crisis hit the black music world hard. In this video, we'll look at the lives of 25 black R&B stars and icons who tragically died of AIDS. 1. Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart was one of those singers who managed to make a global hit out of a very unique message. In 1986, his song, "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off," topped charts in the US and the UK. What made it special was not just the catchy tune, but the lyrics. But behind the success, his health was quietly failing. In the early 1990s, Jermaine contracted HIV, which developed into AIDS-related liver cancer. He passed away in 1997 at just 39 years old. 2. Bobby DeBarge. Bobby DeBarge was the lead singer of the Motown band Switch, and he became famous for his beautiful falsetto voice. But Bobby's life was not easy. He grew up in a troubled household and battled personal demons. He struggled with drug use, which not only hurt his career but also his health. By the mid-1980s, as his family band DeBarge was also rising in fame, Bobby's problems deepened. He was later arrested for drug trafficking and served time in prison. During this period, he contracted HIV. He tried to keep his illness private, but his health kept worsening. By the time he came out of prison, he was already very sick. In 1995, at just 39 years old, Bobby DeBarge died of AIDS complications. 3. Kenny Green. Kenny was a rising star in R&B when the AIDS crisis was at its height in America. He contracted HIV in the 1990s, and eventually it developed into full-blown AIDS. Unlike many celebrities who kept their illness secret, Kenny openly talked about his diagnosis in interviews. This honesty was rare and powerful at a time when there was still so much stigma attached to HIV. He explained how his lifestyle and choices led to his condition, and he wanted people to learn from his experience. Sadly, Kenny's life was cut short in 2001 when he died at only 32 years old. 4. Keith Barrow. Keith Barrow might not be a household name today, but in the late 1970s, he was seen as one of the bright young voices of soul and disco. He grew up in Chicago and came from a very religious family. In fact, his mother founded a famous church there, but Keith wanted to take a different path, the world of R&B and disco. Sadly, Keith's journey was interrupted far too early. In the early 1980s, he was diagnosed with HIV at a time when there was very little awareness or treatment. By 1983, his health declined rapidly, and he passed away at just 29 years old. 5. Sylvester was one of the most unique and fearless performers of his time. Known as the Queen of Disco, he broke barriers not just with his music, but also with his style and identity. With hits like "You Make Me Feel," "Mighty Real," and "Dance," "Disco Heat," he became an icon of the disco movement in the 1970s. But Sylvester's life was tragically cut short. In the late 1980s, he contracted HIV, and his health declined quickly. He passed away in 1988 at just 41 years old. 6. Sharon Redd. Sharon Redd was a powerful R&B and disco singer whose voice lit up dance floors in the 1980s. Born in Norfolk, Virginia, Sharon started out performing on Broadway before moving into music. Unfortunately, behind the scenes, Sharon was facing health struggles. In the early 1990s, she contracted HIV. Her immune system weakened and she developed pneumonia, which ultimately claimed her life in 1992. She was only 46 years old. 7. Eazy-E. Eazy-E, often called the godfather of gangsta rap, was one of the founding members of the group NWA. In the late 1980s, when rap was still growing, NWA shook the music world with raw, unfiltered songs about street life, police brutality, and inequality. Their album, Straight Outta Compton, didn't just sell millions. It started conversations about race and reality in America. In early 1995, Eazy shocked fans when he announced he had been diagnosed with AIDS. This was a time when the disease carried huge stigma, especially in the hip-hop community. Within just a month of going public, he passed away at the age of 30. 8. Fela Kuti. Fela Kuti was more than just a musician. He was a cultural revolution. Born in Nigeria, Fela created a new genre called Afrobeat, which mixed African rhythms with funk, jazz, and soul. Sadly, by 1997, his health collapsed, and he died at the age of 58 from AIDS-related complications. 9. Gil Scott-Heron. Gil Scott-Heron was one of the most influential voices in black music and culture. He wasn't a typical singer or rapper. He was a poet, a storyteller, and a social critic. In the 1970s, he released spoken word tracks over jazz and soul rhythms, and one of his most famous pieces was, "The revolution will not be televised." This line became a slogan for activism and social change, but Gil's life was also full of challenges. He struggled with addiction for decades, and in the early 2000s, it was revealed that he was living with HIV. He didn't hide his condition, but he rarely spoke about it in detail. By 2011, his health had declined, and he passed away at the age of 62. 10. David Cole. David Cole was one half of the legendary group C+C Music Factory, famous for their 1990 worldwide hit, "Gonna Make You Sweat, Everybody Dance Now." If you've ever been to a party or gym, you've definitely heard this song. But David's life was tragically short. In 1995, at just 32 years old, he died of complications from AIDS. 11. Gene Anthony Ray. Gene Anthony Ray was best known as Leroy Johnson in the movie and TV show Fame. In the early 1980s, Fame became a cultural sensation, and Gene's character, a tough but talented street dancer, captured people's hearts. However, his career never reached its full potential. Behind the fame, he struggled with personal issues, including substance abuse. In the 1990s, Gene's health declined after contracting HIV, which developed into AIDS. Sadly, in 2003, he passed away at just 41 years old. 12. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey wasn't just a choreographer, he was a cultural pioneer. In 1958, he founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, which became one of the most important dance companies in the world. But while he was breaking boundaries on stage, he was also fighting a private battle. In the 1980s, Alvin Ailey contracted HIV, which later developed into AIDS. In 1989, he passed away at just 58 years old. 13. Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett was a brilliant Broadway choreographer and director whose work influenced both theater and R&B inspired musicals. He was behind hits like A Chorus Line and Dreamgirls. Unfortunately, like many artists of his generation, Michael's career was cut short by illness. In the 1980s, he was diagnosed with AIDS. Despite trying to keep his health private, it became clear he could no longer work. He passed away in 1987 at only 44 years old. 14. Howard Rollins. Howard Rollins was a talented black actor best known for his role as Virgil Tibbs in the TV series In the Heat of the Night. He first gained attention in the movie Ragtime, 1981, where his performance earned him an Academy Award nomination. For many young black actors, Rollins was proof that they could reach Hollywood's highest levels. But while his career was going up, his personal life faced challenges. He struggled with drug use, and later it was revealed he was HIV positive. Howard tried to keep his illness private, but his health declined quickly in the mid-1990s. He passed away in 1996 at just 46 years old from AIDS-related complications. 15. Moses Gunn. Moses Gunn was one of the most respected black actors of his time, often appearing in roles that highlighted the richness of black culture. Born in 1929, he built his career in theater, film, and television. He became famous for his strong voice and commanding presence. Behind the stage lights, Moses faced a private battle. In the late 1980s, he was diagnosed with AIDS. He continued to work as much as he could, but eventually grew weaker. In 1993, at the age of 64, he passed away from complications related to the disease. 16. Kevin Peter Hall. Kevin Peter Hall was a unique figure in Hollywood because of his incredible height. 7 feet 2 inches tall. This made him perfect for playing larger-than-life characters. But tragedy struck when Kevin received a blood transfusion after a car accident in the late 1980s. The blood was tainted with HIV. This was at a time when testing wasn't as strict, and many people unknowingly became infected. Kevin's health worsened, and he passed away in 1991 at just 35 years old. 17. Franklin Seals. Franklin Seals was a gifted black actor best remembered for playing Dexter Stuffins, the lawyer, on the 1980s sitcom Silver Spoons. Born in 1952 in St. Vincent, he trained in acting at the Juilliard School, showing just how much talent he had from an early age. But behind his rising career, Franklin was facing a health crisis. In the late 1980s, he was diagnosed with HIV, which later developed into AIDS. At a time when stigma was high, he kept much of his struggle private. Sadly, in 1990, he passed away at just 37 years old. 18. Melvin Lindsay. Melvin Lindsay is remembered for creating one of the most influential formats in black radio history, The Quiet Storm. Born in Washington, D.C., Melvin started as a student DJ at Howard University's. In 1992, at just 36 years old, he died from AIDS-related complications. 19. Max Robinson. Max Robinson made history as the first black person to anchor a nightly network news broadcast in the United States. Born in 1939, he began his career in local television in Washington, D.C. at a time when opportunities for black journalists were extremely limited. But Max also lived with personal struggles. In the late 1980s, he was diagnosed with HIV. At that time, stigma around AIDS was very high, especially for public figures. He tried to keep his illness private, but his health began to decline. In 1988, he died at the age of 49. 20. Arthur Ashe. Arthur Ashe was not just a tennis champion. He was a global icon for sportsmanship, dignity, and activism. Born in 1943 in Richmond, Virginia, the blood was unknowingly contaminated with HIV. He was later diagnosed with AIDS, which shocked the public because he didn't fit the stereotypes people wrongly associated with the disease at that time. 21. Glenn Burke. Glenn Burke was a professional baseball player who became known not only for his skills on the field, but also for his personal courage. But what truly made Glenn unique was that he was the first openly gay Major League Baseball player. His health declined, and by 1995 he passed away from AIDS-related complications at just 42 years old. 22. Reggie Williams. Reggie Williams was a talented NFL linebacker who played for the Cincinnati Bengals from 1976 to 1989. He spoke about the importance of education, prevention, and compassion. Sadly, his health worsened, and he passed away from AIDS-related complications. 23. Essex Hemphill. Essex Hemphill was a poet, performer, and activist whose work captured the struggles and beauty of being black and gay in America. But in the late 1980s, Essex was diagnosed with HIV. Like many artists of his generation, he faced the stigma of AIDS directly. Instead of staying silent, he used his poetry to confront the disease and the fear surrounding it. His honesty inspired many. He passed away in 1995 at just 38 years old. 24. Marlon Riggs. Marlon Riggs was a groundbreaking filmmaker, poet, and educator who used art to fight racism and homophobia. In 1994, at just 37 years old, he passed away from AIDS-related complications. 25. Willie Smith. Willie Smith was a talented black jazz and R&B saxophonist who contributed to the sound of mid-20th century music. He passed away from AIDS-related complications, leaving behind a legacy of music that shaped jazz and R&B. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.